Realizziamo dei bottoncini al sesamo.
We're going to make some bottoncini with sesame. So some monoportion breads that are almost part of salty pastry, savory pastry, but it's still a type of bread. So we're going to go on with 500 grams of 00 flour,
5 grammi di lievito secco,
5 grams of dry yeast,
280 grammi di latte,
280 grams of milk,
e poi abbiamo un grasso, il burro,
and then we have
e
a fat butter that we're going to add later, and salt that we're not putting in contact with the yeast. In the planetary machine, we're using the leaf paddle instead of the spiral hook because this dough, 500 grams of flour, just a few, are a little amount for the dimension of this planetary bowl, and so this will help us to better catch the dough.
verifichiamo sempre che la manopola non sia al massimo e partiamo.
So always making sure that the handle is not at the maximum speed, and we can go on.
Quando l'impasto si raccoglie intorno
When the dough starts attaching to the paddle, but it's still crumbly,
vedete, qua già si è
like this,
raccolto,
has already
si è attaccato,
clumped up around the paddle. It hasn't formed yet. I'm going to add the salt, that drop of milk that remained, to melt it.
vado a incorporare il sale
I'm going to incorporate salt,
e piano piano in più riprese
and slowly,
la dose di
in more steps,
di solito
I'm going to add the
10 e 15%.
amount of butter. It's around 10 to 15%.
Quando ha incorporato la prima cucchiaiata passo alla successiva.
When it has incorporated the first amount, I'm going to step to the next one.
Questo prodotto può essere realizzato anche con l'olio.
This product can be also made with oil.
La fantasia unita alla
The
conoscenza
fantasy
dare luogo
joined to creativity and knowledge can create some peculiar products. Let's imagine to put some guanciale in a pan, separating the fat from the guanciale over low heat from the guanciale itself. I'm going to filter it, mince the guanciale finely with the knife. Then I'm going to use that fat instead of the butter and putting inside the powder of guanciale. And here we have a bread to be stuffed with tomato sauce, amatriciana tomato sauce. So bread with amatriciana, where amatriciana is in the dough of the bread.
andiamo a fermare.
I'm going to stop the machine.
Si è asciugato per bene. Andiamo a
Has
chiudere
dried
l'impasto.
thoroughly. I'm going to close the dough.
Vedete che ho una parte superiore
You can see that I have an upper part and a lower part.
parte inferiore verso l'alto
I'm kneading with the upper part and I'm closing in this way. Then I'm turning on 45 degrees and repeating the operation. We have a certain dynamic and energy until the dough becomes like this. I'm going to let it rest in a bowl. I'm going to cover it with plastic film. This is going to rest, since we put just a little bit of yeast, it's going to rest around 10 hours. Now I'm going to remove this from the fridge and I will shape it. The dough has doubled in size. We're going to put it on the working surface, sprinkling on top and bottom with some semolina flour, and with a rolling pin we're going to roll it out. The thickness mustn't be over half a centimeter because they will grow, of course. So basically as thick as a finger. And here we can decide the dimension of the bread we want to make using different dimension pasta cutters. The ones we're going to make today will be this dimension here. So I'll make this operation here. And I'm going to place them on the tray. There's also another way to form the bottoncini. So the technique is different and it is exactly this one. So just basically cutting them with the hand, closing them, and placing them on a tray. So we'll have a different result. So before we let them rise, we're going to brush them with some egg yolk and a little bit of milk. A little bit of milk just to lighten the flavor of the egg. And clearly the egg makes the surface golden. And we'll need it as a glue to let the sesame seed adhere. Which we're going to add once leavened. So what to do with the waste instead? I'm going to show you. So once we've formed all of the little breads with the cutters, I'm left with this. What can I do with this? I'm reusing it, of course. So I'm re-kneading it. Every time you touch a dough, you must let it rest. So I'm waiting half an hour to reuse this. And I'll be able to either roll it out and make other bottoncini, or I will use it whole to make a little loaf. So sprinkling sesame seeds, either white or black or both, The egg will be a glue for the seeds to prevent them from sliding on the sides when they will puff up. So they bake at 200 degrees for 10 minutes. The smaller the bread, the higher the temperature. If the temperature is too low, the bread will become a biscuit, but the bread must grow, and it's so small that it will cook very quickly inside. So let's take the bread out of the oven. And here the color is perfect. If you see that the color is uneven, for example this and this, it is normal because every oven bakes more on one side, more on the other, less on one side. So once you've got practice with your oven, the only thing to do is to rotate the tray and rotate the bread so the heat will be redistributed. The only difference I wanted to show you is between the two, so the handmade one and the cut ones. The one is puffier, the one made by hand. These are going to be put on a rack so that the underneath part does not soften. And these can be both eaten at the table or stuffed for a banquet, classical party.